"Some kids are meant for the bench," Coach Patterson announced from the front of the high school gymnasium, his voice echoing off the bleachers where 30 anxious parents sat clutching coffee cups. "Your son is one of them, Mrs. Torres." He looked directly at me, his expression a mixture of pity and condescension that made my hands clench around my phone. What Coach Patterson didn't know, what he was about to discover in the most humiliating way possible, was that my phone had just buzzed with a text from USA, swimming's National Talent Identification Program, asking to discuss elite training pathways for my 15-year-old son Marcus, the same kid Patterson had benched for the entire season. I forced myself to stay calm, to not make a scene in front of the other parents who were all watching to see if I'd cry or argue or beg him to reconsider. Marcus sat beside me, his shoulders hunched, staring at his shoes like he could disappear into them. "With all due respect, Coach," I said carefully, "Marcus has been swimming competitively since he was 7. He has 14 state medals. He qualified for junior nationals last year." "In the summer league," Patterson interrupted dismissively. "That's a completely different level than high school varsity. The competition is, let's say, less intense." He clicked to the next slide in his presentation, showing the varsity roster. Marcus's name wasn't on it. High school swimming requires a specific type of athlete. Team players, kids who can handle pressure, kids with the right build. That's what this was really about. Marcus was 5'6" and 130 pounds. He'd hit puberty late, hadn't had his growth spurt yet, and looked younger than his 15 years. Meanwhile, Patterson's favorite swimmers were all 6 feet tall, with shoulders like professional linebackers. Coach Patterson, another parent spoke up, Diego Morales, whose son was team captain. "Isn't Marcus the one who broke the county record in the 200 butterfly last summer?" "Summer league records?" Patterson repeated, like it explained everything. "Look, I'm not saying Marcus isn't a decent swimmer. He's fine for recreation. But varsity is for athletes who can compete at the highest level. Some kids just don't have what it takes, and it's kinder to be honest with them now than let them waste years chasing an impossible dream." My phone buzzed again. I glanced down. "Mrs. Torres, this is Jennifer Kim from USA Swimming. We've been tracking Marcus's times from the summer circuit. His 200 fly time would have qualified for Olympic trials if he was 16. We need to talk about development programs. Please call me ASAP." I read the message twice, my heart pounding. "Mrs. Torres?" Patterson's voice cut through my shock. "Do you have something to add, or can we move on to discussing the kids who actually made the team?" I looked at Marcus, who was staring at me with desperate eyes that said, "Please don't make this worse." I looked at Patterson, standing there so confident in his assessment. I looked at the other parents, some sympathetic, some clearly relieved their sons had made the cut. "Actually," I said, standing up and pocketing my phone, "I do have something to add." The gymnasium went silent. "Marcus won't be trying out for the high school team again." Patterson smiled like this confirmed everything. "That's probably for the best, because he's been invited to join USA Swimming's National Talent Identification Program." I pulled out my phone and held it up, showing the text. "They want to discuss elite training pathways and Olympic development programs." Apparently his 200 butterfly time from last summer, the one you dismissed, as summer league, would have qualified for Olympic trials if he was 16 instead of 15, the smile disappeared from Patterson's face. That's not possible," he stammered. "I've seen him swim. He's small. He doesn't have the power. He has technique," I interrupted. "He has perfect form, incredible underwater work, and a strategic understanding of pace that makes up for any lack of raw power. All things you would have noticed if you'd actually watched him swim instead of deciding he wasn't athlete material based on his size." Diego Morales pulled out his phone. "Holy shit, Mrs. Torres, is this Marcus?" He turned his phone around, showing a SwimSwam article from last summer. 15-year-old phenom breaks 30-year-old county record in 200 butterfly. "That's my son," I said quietly. "Coach Patterson." Diego said slowly, "Did you know about this?" Patterson's face had gone red. "County records don't mean—" "The article says college scouts from Stanford, Cal, and Texas were at the meet," Diego continued reading. It says Marcus's time was one of the top 10 for his age group in the entire country last year. Other parents were pulling out their phones now, Googling Marcus's name, finding articles and swim meet results that Patterson had apparently never bothered to look up. "Why didn't you swim for the school team last year?" asked Jennifer Park, whose daughter was on the varsity roster. Marcus finally found his voice. "I tried out freshman year. Coach Patterson said I was too small and should come back when I grew. So I spent last year's swimming club instead. And breaking records," I added, "and catching the attention of USA Swimming. And training 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, because he loves this sport, even though his high school coach told him he wasn't good enough." Patterson tried to regain control. "Mrs. Torres, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. You made a judgment about my son based on his appearance instead of his ability. You didn't bother to research his times or achievements. You assumed that because he doesn't look like your idea of an athlete, he must not be one." I took Marcus's hand. "We're leaving. Marcus has better things to do than waste time trying to prove himself to someone who refuses to see what's right in front of him." We walked out of the gymnasium to absolute silence. In the parking lot, Marcus finally broke down. "Mom, that was so embarrassing." "I know, baby. I'm sorry, but also kind of awesome." He was crying and laughing at the same time. "Did you see his face when you showed him the text?" "I did." I hugged him tight. "Marcus, I need you to understand something. Coach Patterson is one person with one opinion, a wrong opinion. USA Swimming doesn't care how tall you are or how much you weigh. They care about your times, your technique, and your potential. And they see Olympic potential." "Olympic?" "That's what the text said." I showed him my phone. "They want to talk about training programs, development pathways." "Marcus, this is huge." He stared at the message, his expression cycling through disbelief, hope, and fear. "What if Coach Patterson is right, though? What if I'm only good at Summer League because the competition isn't as tough? You broke a 30-year-old county record. You have college scouts interested. You have USA Swimming calling." I tilted his face up to look at me. "Patterson is one coach at one high school. These are national-level organizations with resources to identify talent. Who do you think knows better?" That night I called Jennifer Kim back. "Mrs. Torres, thank you for getting back to me. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Weeks!" We sent emails to the address listed on Marcus's club registration. They all bounced back. I closed my eyes. I'd changed email providers last month and forgotten to update Marcus's registration. "I'm so sorry. I just saw your text tonight." "No worries. Listen, Marcus's times are exceptional. His underwater technique is some of the best I've seen for his age group. We'd like to invite him to our winter training camp in Colorado Springs. It's where we identify potential Olympic prospects and pair them with high-level coaching. Olympic prospects. I had to sit down. He's obviously years away from actual Olympic competition. But Mrs. Torres, if he continues developing at his current trajectory, 2028 Olympics is definitely possible. He'd be 19. Perfect age." After the call, I found Marcus in his room, watching old Olympic swimming videos. "They want you to go to Colorado Springs," I said. "Training camp. With other elite swimmers." He paused the video. "For real?" "For real. When?" "Over winter break. 3 weeks of intensive training and evaluation." He was quiet for a long moment. "Will Coach Patterson hear about it?" "Probably. Does that matter?" "I want him to know he was wrong." Marcus looked at me fiercely. "I want everyone at school to know he was wrong." "Is that petty?" "Maybe, but it's also human." I sat on his bed. "Here's what I think. You don't do this to prove anything to Patterson. You do this because you love swimming, because you're talented, and because you deserve to see how far that talent can take you. But can I also enjoy proving him wrong a little bit?" Absolutely. The training camp was intense. Marcus came home exhausted every night, talking about drills and splits and underwater video analysis. He trained with kids who had similar times, similar technique, similar dreams. He also grew. By the end of the 3 weeks, he'd gained 1/2 an inch in height and 5 pounds of muscle from the specialized strength training. "This is what I needed," he told me on the last day. "Not just the coaching, but being around other swimmers who take it seriously, who don't care that I'm smaller than average, who only care about times." The camp coaches were impressed enough to recommend Marcus for year-round elite squad training. He'd continue swimming club locally, but with a specialized training program designed by national-level coaches. When school resumed in January, word had spread about the training camp. Suddenly, Marcus was getting stopped in hallways by kids asking for autographs, by teachers congratulating him, by students who'd never spoken to him before wanting to take selfies. Coach Patterson avoided him entirely for the first week back. Then finally, he approached Marcus after school one day. "Can we talk?" Patterson asked, looking uncomfortable. "I was there picking Marcus up. I stayed close." "I owe you an apology," Patterson said. "I made assumptions about your abilities without doing proper research. That was unprofessional and unfair." "Yeah, it was," Marcus said flatly. "I'd like to offer you a spot on the varsity team. You'd be our #1 butterflyer. We could build the relay around you." Marcus looked at me, then back at Patterson. "Thanks, but no thanks." Patterson looked stunned. "But it would look good for college recruiting." "I already have college scouts interested, Coach. Stanford, Cal, and Texas have all reached out. Swimming for high school won't help my times or my development." Marcus stood taller. "USA Swimming has me on a training program that's way more advanced than anything the high school team does. No offense, but I've outgrown this level, I see." Patterson looked like he'd been slapped. "Well, if you change your mind, I won't." After he left, Marcus turned to me with a huge grin. "Was that okay? Was I too harsh? You were perfect, honest, confident, and absolutely right." I hugged him. "I'm so proud of you." "Thanks for not letting me believe him, Mom. When he said I wasn't athlete material, part of me thought he was right. That maybe I was kidding myself. Never. You've always been athlete material." Patterson just couldn't see it because he was looking at the wrong things. 2 years later, at 17, Marcus qualified for Olympic trials. He didn't make the Olympic team. He was still young, still developing, but he placed 6th in the 200 butterfly, beating swimmers who were 5 and 6 years older. Coach Patterson was in the stands. He'd come to watch, he said, to support one of his former students. "Former student who you said wasn't athlete material?" I couldn't resist asking. He had the grace to look ashamed. "I was wrong. About everything. He's extraordinary." "Yes," I said simply. "He is." Marcus went on to swim for Stanford on a full scholarship. At 19, he made the Olympic team for 2028, winning bronze in the 200 butterfly. In every interview, he told the same story about the high school coach who said he wasn't athlete material, about the Olympic scout who saw his potential, about the mother who refused to let him believe the wrong voices, and somewhere, I like to think Coach Patterson was watching, finally understanding that athletic potential doesn't come in just one size, one shape, or one package. It comes in determination, in technique, passion, and heart. Marcus had all of those. He just needed someone to actually look closely enough to see them.